For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Christina Killion, VP of Enterprise Partnerships here at Dealerware. One of the unique benefits of being in partnerships is that I know most of you wonderful people in the room with us here today. And I'm really excited to announce our wonderful panelists that are going to be joining me up here today. So with that, I'd like to introduce Nick Mottas, CEO of HopDrive. Dionne, VP of Sales at RockEd. Matt Bateman, VP of Partnerships at myKaarma. And Aaron Osborne, Enterprise Lead of Data at Ford Pro. Thank you guys so much. Let's have a seat here quick, get a little cozy. So we're really up here today to talk about the challenges that I think we really kicked off with today, right? The dealership software ecosystem is sprawling. And I think that there is so much technology out there, and there's a huge gap growing between having a ton of solutions and having truly connected solutions. So let's set the scene here a little bit. When we talk about dealership technology today, there's no shortage of tools, of course, but that doesn't really mean outcomes. More tools does not equal outcomes, right? So from your guys' perspective, what's broken about the way that most dealerships are currently operating across their various systems? And Dan, I think I want to start with you here because we've had interesting conversations, I think, about like software consolidation.
Yeah. It's a good point. I think Steve talked about it a little bit. There's 20 to 30 technical vendors just to run a dealership. I think there's a lot of tech burnout there, especially if those systems don't talk to each other. Like, I think about it from a dealer standpoint, working with dealers all day, just managing 20 different relationships that don't talk to each other. That's already exhausting as it is. So, I think the most important thing, whether it's from the OEM side, the Dealerware side, the most important thing you can do is make sure all of your partners are kind of talking to each other for that. I don't want to use like seamless integration as that like buzzword, but an easy, efficient way of managing all those vendors and getting the most out of those platforms for all your folks on the floor.
Yeah. So Matt, let me toss it over to you as well. I mean, same question about what's broken. myKaarma is obviously operating across a lot of workflows in the dealership.
Yeah, and to continue on that theme, even Steve mentioned, right, 7 or 8 tabs are open, for the advisor or whoever's in the dealership. We acknowledge that, but there's also the consumer fatigue, right? So, if you have 30 systems in the dealership, how many systems are your vehicle owners, your customers interfacing with? And it's a very real situation, right, where they're getting a text message from their advisor, from the loaner management tool, 2 different ways to pay for different parts of the service, a multi-point inspection. So if we can consolidate and synchronize these things so there's like one stream of communication for the customer, it builds a lot of trust for them, and they're looking at it as one unified sort of experience, right? Instead of this dealership sending me down to all these different vendors and links and communication, it's one unified piece there.
Yeah, I think, Nick, speaking of unified software, we have the very unique integration where HopDrive is actually embedded directly in Dealerware. So we've certainly like drank the Kool-Aid, right? So talk to us a little bit about what's broken now.
Yeah, I think, when you think about a company like HopDrive, there's multiple systems that we would need to interface with to make sure that the data is being moved correctly, and whether or not they support it is another question. So as an example, we have to take orders from a service scheduler, just like Dealerware would, to know that a loaner car is going to be used on a potential appointment. So it's like, I know something's going to happen. Dealerware may know something's going to happen. Now we have to jointly know that something's going to happen if I have to take a valet with a loaner out to a customer. So it's like, maybe I have integration with Service Scheduler, they do, but then how do we fix that entire workflow? I think there is a difference, though, between an integrated solution and an embedded solution. An integrated solution just allows us to move data between systems, and that's a smart way to do it. But it doesn't really help the dealership all that much because we don't consolidate the tabs, we don't consolidate any of that stuff. So the embedded solution, which is one of the things that we sort of imagineered together with Dealerware, is you actually log in to HopDrive through the Dealerware solution, which is terrific. it's not another tab. HopDrive lives within the ecosystem of Dealerware, which I think is the future of auto.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the one final piece, and then, you know, especially when it comes to getting people ready to use these tools or ready to be, let's just say, even acceptably proficient at their jobs, there's a mountain of training that has to go through it. You know, 3 or 4 years ago, you get let's say 30 different tabs to go through just to learn how to sell an Audi Q5. It's a mountain of a project just in itself, and you know, we work on month-to-month schedules, so that fragmented kind of learning experience is difficult. So we talk about our ecosystem or environment for 2 seconds. If I'm an Audi store, for an example, you know, I have my Audi onboarding, I have Mastermind, I have Impel, I have all these different things all in one place. So you know, that ecosystem consolidation is really the solution, I guess, to removing that fragmented experience that just causes confusion. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have people just in training modules all day long. It would be their full-time job with all the software there is right now, right? And Aaron, you really bring a great enterprise perspective because you're coming from more the OEM side of things. So talk a little bit about how that fragmentation of systems can show up at a network level.
Yeah, absolutely. What's really interesting, and we're sort of touching on this, but not actually saying it, is dealerships don't know how to buy software. That's why they buy 30 solutions, right? And the fundamental answer is they're out there and they're looking for a specific solution to a specific problem, and here's a solution that fits that problem. We talked about the barrier to entry for software being lowered, and what that means is there's more solutions out there, which means there's more sales guys out there that are going to tell you everything you want to hear to get your solution where it needs to be. And what happens is as you go through and you start thinking about that sole issue that you're trying to resolve, you end up missing the boat on how to connect everything in a full solution. And I think that's where a lot of this consolidation can really benefit our dealerships, is creating that end-to-end solution that says, hey, from the time that customer walks on the lot to actually look at or test drive a vehicle, all the way through to first service, all the way through how do I manage how that customer gets a loaner car, handle warranty repairs, do we do remote? All of that in one solution becomes this seamless opportunity to really win and long-term grow a relationship with your customers. And that doesn't happen, unfortunately, in fragmented sections. It simply can't. So from my perspective, and I've been in software sales since I had hair, and that's actually what caused the loss, but that's a whole other conversation. What you have to do is truly think with the end in mind, and as a dealership, understand what do you want that really to look like for your customer? How do you want them to feel after they've gone through every single thing? And build from there and build sort of backwards. And it's a hard thing to do, right? We saw the first iteration of software where they went through and they bought for whoever told you it was the best solution. Now what we're running into is, and forgive me, I'm going on a rant here, but I'm getting there, I swear.
Oh, we love it.
What happens is, as a dealer, you don't know how to buy software. You're not thinking with the end in mind. You're thinking, I've got to resolve the problem. I've got 6 solutions that are out there. And I say, well, they are all pretty doggone close to the same thing. Which one's my lowest price provider? That's the one I'm going with because I'm going to save money doing it. And you roll that out, and then 6 months later, you realize it doesn't do what I needed it to do, and we're stuck. So.
Yeah, and you end up spending more money when you really set out to be saving money because you've got all these broken systems, or you're filling in the gaps with manual labor, basically.
Absolutely.
If I could just jump in for a second, I think this is what's so important for the best-in-class software providers in auto, is we're going to see lots of copycats because of AI. We just talked about it. Like, imagine somebody just building a valet app on a weekend. It could happen. Yeah. And then it's sold into a dealership, and they're selling this bill of goods that the dealer thinks they're getting, and then ultimately they're not going to get, and they're going to have to rip it out 6-8 months later. And it's because maybe the app worked, but the connectivity into the systems that matter was never there, and they don't even know about it because they just built an app over a weekend.
Yeah.
I think there's been one little shift, though, in the way dealers buy. It used to just be, what's the cheapest solution, and do you integrate with my DMS, right? That was the thing. And I've seen in the last year or two, right, it's now, do you integrate with these other like foundational pieces that I have? And there's 3 or 4 of them out there. So it's like, do you integrate with this solution? Do you integrate with this one? And if you don't, that's where the decisions are shifting at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, really, let's talk about the shift more, right? Because we're all acknowledging that this is the time. There is a shift happening. So Dan, I'd love to start with you. What do you think is driving the shift right now?
We've kind of touched all about it, fragmentation, consolidation, but when it comes to, I think a lot of this is, like we talked about dealer burnout and consumer burnout, like how much money has been lost on just inefficient buying?
Yeah.
Right.
Like nail on the head, dealers don't know how to buy technology correctly. Dealers will buy a good idea immediately, and then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and there's a lot of money lost, a lot of efficiency lost. So when they hear a good idea, hear all the integrations, hear all that, they get really excited about it. So for an example, like we have dealers, we have OEM partners, we have other partners reaching out to all of their partners saying, go talk to RockEd so I can get all of my stuff in one place.
Yeah.
Because the underlying part of that on the shift is the big elephant that no one's really solved, and we're really trying to help that, is turnover at dealerships. It's still an outrageous number, and dealers don't realize how much they're spending on that. You know, the latest NCM number was like $49,000 on average per loss of an employee. So like if you can actually make that employee efficient up front, make them more knowledgeable up front, they're better at their job, they get their first sale faster, or they get their first RO done faster, and it's more perfect, they find success earlier, they may stay longer. A big deal there. But I think, you know, just from our side, you know, in the Dealerware side, putting all of this stuff together in one place, and we have so many dealers, and actually there was one that just last week came on board because I have 70% of all their vendors already in the app. So they're like, I don't have to go anywhere for most of this outside of 1 or 2 OEMs. And they're like, I've already canceled five vendors just because of that in terms of being able to support everything we're doing here. And we can put my dealer story on there. So they want it all in one place.
Yeah, and I would argue that, you know, employee turnover has absolutely been like a theme across the industry. I would argue that when these systems work better together, you're actually encouraging employee retention because you're keeping them in a happy, easier day job than all of the manual things they have to manage and feel overwhelmed or like they're doing more than they signed up for, right?
Yeah, and you know, if you have someone that, say, brand new to car sales and they don't know all the inner workings of it, where are they going to learn it other than just getting thrown into the pool and hope they swim? So, you know, we're trying to educate right up front, and if we can educate up front on dealer world, process, how to handle the phones, how to handle objections all at the same time of getting OEM training, you know, Dealerware training, Impel training all at the same time to get them started, they'll find success faster. You know, it's really that speed, I guess, speed to success that I think will elongate tenure and reduce a lot of those operating costs. So long answer to, like, I think the underwhelming thing or the underlying thing is that something that no one's really focused on, which is that employee retention.
Yeah.
I was going to add, you know, we talk a lot about, well, the systems have to be connected, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, now a lot of us have open APIs and we advertise this, and I think a lot of people in this room have that shared philosophy of let's share our data, let's do the integrations on there. One of the things we've looked at when we look at like strategic partners like Dealerware is how can the sum be greater than the individual parts of it, right? So it's not enough just to say, it used to be, but it's not enough now to just say, oh, you could log into Dealerware through the myKaarma system. What's the benefit of doing this that you wouldn't get when these two systems are separate? So that's the piece that I think drives a better experience for dealer users and even for customers as well, right? Can I go pull real-time inventory right through my system? Can you send your payment right through our system on there? Those are value adds. That's a lot more than just, well, we added a tab inside our system. It's not enough anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some, you know, integration points we typically think of as just data moving between, but it also supports workflows.
Yeah.
And so different companies have workflows that are important to them. So like a very good example in an integration with Dealerware is we didn't know this because in our past we would just go deliver a loaner car to a consumer, and we didn't have anything to do with the contract, and frankly we didn't care too much because it wasn't part of our world. And then when we started to understand what's important to Dealerware, we started to realize that's a rental contract that needs to be executed or else there's not insurance on it. We shouldn't hand the car over to that consumer until that rental contract is completed. And the problem they were trying to solve sometimes is the contract may not, because in my world I would say, well, just get the contract signed electronically before we go take the car out. That's easy enough to deliver to a consumer, but some consumers, in fact, most consumers want to inspect the car, make sure that they're signing off on the damage waivers, all those things when we get to the driveway. And so now matching those workflows of, I'm allowed to give that car over to a consumer because they've executed.
Yeah.
It's like the talk back between our apps to be able to say, okay, they have the damage waiver in their inbox, then they signed it, and the Dealerware system can acknowledge that to my driver app to be able to say, it is okay now to hand that vehicle over to the consumer.
Yeah.
That workflow matchup is really important, and the dealers need it because whether it's my labor or their labor doing it, they still need to know, am I okay to hand that car over? Am I covered? Is the dealer covered? Because they're going to come back to you and say, that thing wasn't insured and they totaled it. Who's responsible for it now? Right?
Yeah, and I mean, of course, I love working with you guys for a variety of reasons, but truly, I feel like we have made each other smarter. And really, at the end of the day, for the benefit of the OEMs, groups, and retailers,
Right.
we are now smarter about those processes and are building the things that really matter because of these partnerships.
Yep.
Aaron, do you have a take on this as well, the shift happening?
Oh, you know I'm a big fan of collaboration and working together and finding a way to make things better. I think, we touched on some of the competition that's coming in from outside. We've got to sharpen the sword as OEMs, as dealers, as providers. We've got to be ready for that next influx. And as I look at this, for so many years, we've all been siloed. We've all been very focused on our own thing. I can speak from the OEM level. I go to Detroit. I have to go and, spit on GM's headquarters because that's what you're supposed to do. We have to hate them. I live in Dallas, and I'm not going to say what I do to the Toyota. I'm joking, of course. But the concept of that, of everybody just living in their own little bubble, has to change. We have to work together. Our systems have to communicate together. We've got to get this customer experience to where our customers want to come back again. Not because of we're the best price, because we're not going to be. Not because necessarily we've got the best features, arguably. The other thing that we haven't really touched on is these outside organizations are coming into the U.S. They're going to build from the ground up. So everything that we're trying to do as organizations, everything that the dealers want to do, they're going to build it from here, and we're starting from down here. So it really behooves us, before we start missing the boat, to really get on this and collaborate and work together to create that ecosystem that's going to create retention and loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think kind of from that perspective, that boots on the ground concept, right? Yeah. Dan, talk to us a bit, like from the training and behavior standpoint. I mean, the boots on the ground, the various teams that are trying to work together, all of the education and training that you're trying to bring together. I mean, fragmentation can totally kill that.
Yeah, and we see it every single day. Like a 20-store group, they do 20 different things for all the different departments, and some departments get honestly nothing, and that's just the reality that we're in. So, but some of the bigger problems is that, and we've all been there. We've all had our own different types of training, but when there's a let's just call it I don't want to call it a shift, but I think our attentions are, let's just use the word of the day, fragmented. Like if you look at your phone and see how many like bings and things you get every single day, it's like 1,500 alerts every single day. Yeah. It's almost impossible to keep people's attention now. So when you put someone in a room for like an hour, whether it's sales, service, F&I, like they're not going to remember anything because they're focused elsewhere. The other side of it is because all of those alerts and stuff every day, you're just thinking about the next 20 seconds, the next 30 seconds, what do I got to do next? So what we see is, and my favorite story of this, I did something similar for a bunch of CFOs. I'm like, I'm day 2. You guys are in this room for 9 hours yesterday. Someone raise your hand and tell me 2 things you're taking back to your dealership. Don't look at your notes. Not one person raised their hand. And I'm like, now think of it from your new person who's never worked in automotive before. How are they going to learn your process? How are they going to learn your way of doing things if you can't remember what you just talked about yesterday? So that's why it's all about creating that repeatable short habit. How can I build on what I learned yesterday, tomorrow, get 1% better tomorrow than I was today? And it's really all about just kind of building that base and building on from it in every single role. Yeah. There's still that aspect of experience that you can't ignore that. Like you're just going to pick up pieces as you go, but you have to start somewhere, and that comes with short, repeatable processes every day. That's why we suggest 3 90-second learning guides and an AI role play practice, so that you're not only watching and learning from our experts, you're taking what it is into a practical test every single day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that all of your products are great. All of our products are great. We're all powering the service drive. But interestingly, the products that you guys represent are actually quite diverse. So I'd love to zoom in on those a little bit. So Nick, in the logistics space, what makes pickup and delivery harder than it needs to be?
Oh, geez. All right, I say this line often. Dealers sell cars well, dealers finance cars well, and dealers can service cars well. Then you ask them to do the most difficult logistics use case, pick up a customer's car at their house at 1 o'clock. What? So that if that's not the challenge, maybe we'll zoom in a little bit more. There's so many things that can affect that. Did my driver show up? Did my driver know where to go? Did they know when to go? All of that is very difficult for a dealer to run on their own. And so for software like ours, it is not, can the human that's going to do it for the dealer do it, but do they know how to do it? And we can guide them on how to do that. And much like what you're talking about in training and things like that, while we don't have the micro learnings in our app, like our app workflows are if you didn't do this in the last week, you should know how to do it, because it's intuitive enough to just say, this is the next thing you do, this is when you're supposed to start, and do this thing. So there's a lot of challenges around logistics in a dealership, and I think it's mostly starts with they didn't have processes, and they definitely didn't have software to support it.
Yeah, definitely. Matt, myKaarma is very much centered within all of the service lane workflows. Talk to me a bit, I think you touched on this a little, about how communications, customer communications, payments, availability, when those things aren't talking to each other, I mean, it's chaos, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, myKaarma now is a AI and integration-based workflow system for dealers. Right? So it does everything in the service department, from the appointments all the way to the follow-up, including the payments, inspections. All of that happens. But we started as a communications and payments company because that's where those pain points are. And everything we do, and Christina, you know this as our teams have worked together, we said the non-negotiables here are an exceptional communication experience with the customer and an exceptional payments experience as well, because those are the friction points, right? And so that's why all my conversations go back to this. When you have a disjointed communication experience with the customer, they get frustrated. And we've all experienced this, right? How many times have you gotten from your dentist click here to confirm your appointment on Monday, and they're like, oh man, I can't make that appointment. Let me just call the number real quick. And you can't get a person from that number. So you typed back, can I change it? And it goes, this doesn't accept responses.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You throw your phone down. So, we focus on that really early to say, the number you get is one number for the dealership. You can call, you can text, you can send images, you can handle the payment, and it's gonna route to the right person intelligently, right? Is it time to book an appointment? Let's send it to the right person there. Is my car in for service for a status update? Let me get it over to the advisor. So that's been a real fundamental piece that we've kept core to what we do, even though now we've expanded into a lot of AI solutions and deeper integrations across the platform.
It's funny because when I hear you say it out loud, it just makes so much sense, right? Like, it makes so much sense. Why haven't these systems always worked like this?
Yeah.
Because historically, it just hasn't. We've all been in a silo. But yeah, when you really say it like that, it's very simple.
Yeah.
There's one other aspect to that too, and I don't mean to jump in before you.
No.
I know we got the same color jacket on today, but sorry.
You were.
Our CEO Mottas says it all the time. Like, when Apple releases a new iOS, people only use like 9% of it. They put all this development work into a new iOS, and only such a little piece of it gets used. It's no different from any one of us sitting up here and anyone in the room. We spend all this time building these tools.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't talk together, maybe they do, but are people actually getting the most out of it in the first place? Do they even know how to use it?
Yeah.
Like, we hear that all the time. It's like, well, we're not using it right in the first place, fragmented or consolidated. We don't even know what we're doing to begin with, then we've already missed the boat. So that's another thing.
Which is
that
where training and education.
where we all are working together to try to fix that. Because when we talked about it, buying tech is a big part of a dealership's world. We heard from Steve and everybody else, like 30 different vendors. It's a huge expense. We're only using 9% of that at any given moment. We got to be more efficient there too. So, especially in using these tools to their potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Aaron, I'm going to keep picking on you because you're the OEM on the stage right now. From a network-wide perspective, I mean, we know data fragmentation alone is a very real thing. So, I mean, talk about the art of the possible a little bit too. Like, if these systems weren't fragmented, I mean, imagine what we could do with all of that data at a network-wide enterprise level.
Sure. Well, think about it again from the time the customer walks on the lot, or even before that, right? From the marketing perspective of targeted marketing, going after people that are going to be a fit for your product, to the point where they walk on the lot, and you can know exactly where the specific vehicle that person's looking for is. Your team can be trained and educated and know exactly what the specs are and what the customer is going to be interested in, help them sell that, to the point of, hey, we've noticed that you're at your first check-in point for your vehicle. We're going to go ahead and offer for your first service discount or whatever that might look like, all the way through to, heaven forbid there's ever a recall, heaven forbid there's ever warranty work that needs to be done. For the lesser brands, they have that, I'm sure. Sorry. But should that...
Friendly shade.
Sorry, guys. Had to be done. But again, the thought process of what that experience might look like holistically, right? So being able to know what that issue is on the outset when you schedule it, so that you can have parts there ready and waiting. You can have a service bay ready to go for it, to the point where when time comes to give them a loaner vehicle, you know what you have in lot, all of a sudden your occupancy is much higher, you're more efficient, the person who actually is running everything knows what she's doing, the customer has a great experience. And then, something that I just picked up, I'll be honest with you, I just picked this one up 2 weeks ago, was the thought process of creating a geofence so that when that vehicle is on its way back, something triggers and alerts your team that, hey, this customer is on their way back to pick up their vehicle and drop off this loaner. So now you've got your loaner team ready to go, you've got your porters washing the vehicle, getting it ready, getting it pulled up, your customer pulls up, their car's ready and waiting, they feel like a king, they're gonna come back again. And that is what, when you have the whole thing together, that's what it can look like. And of course you can build off and you can add to the flywheel on all of that. But from a holistic standpoint, from an OEM, that's the art of the possible. Especially as you start talking about costs going up, fewer vehicles getting sold, you need to make sure that you're maximizing every penny with that customer. You need to make sure that customer is coming back when time comes to buy again. And so this is the way that you can build something out and create that perpetual customer.
Yeah, great perspective. Definitely a common theme throughout our day today as well. Obviously, we all see the future ahead and the art of the possible and the things that we can all do together. But we have to acknowledge, I think, the reality check of today, too. So what is holding the industry back? Why has it taken so long for us to get here?
So I think there's a couple different things. I think from the OEM perspective, we have to own our responsibility. When it comes to software and solutions, we make great cars. There is a gap, there has been a gap in, I'll speak for Ford and again, I break down those walls. I don't come from the OEM space necessarily, so I'm very happy to talk to every OEM. And it's a very similar conversation across the board, right? They're very good at making vehicles. We're getting into software. We're getting better at it. Dealerships are very good at selling and servicing vehicles. They're learning and they're getting better at the software side of things and how to create that cohesive opportunity. I think we as the OEMs need to do a better job of making it easy for our dealers to digest and take advantage of these with intentional recommendations and pointing dealerships towards best practices to allow them to be as successful as possible. And I think as we begin to deepen that, we get better at our role, we get better at sharing, we build better relationships with our partners to understand what is truly available, and we can provide that to the dealers, help the dealers learn to ingest, learn to take advantage of more than, what was that, 9%?
9, 15, something like that.
Somewhere in that realm.
Not enough.
Truly take advantage of everything and go from that 30 down to 10, whatever that might look like.
Yeah. I mean, please, guys, jump in. I know we all feel the industry being held back. It affects, I think, each of our spaces differently. So
I think from my perspective, our company, its trajectory has changed once we got relationships with OEM. And OEM it's a consultative process. You have to understand the problems that they're trying to solve, and we cannot solve all of them, but they have this massive list of problems that intertwine, and you have to be that consultant. You have to be an extension of their team to make sure that you can help them solve the problem, and that might be through the right connections with other vendors. And so it's like, I think we have started to open up, and you asked the question, why hasn't this happened before? I think so many vendors just thought of their customer as like, I'm gonna hold this in, nobody's gonna get this customer, everyone's a threat. And now we're starting to look at the world in terms of the OEMs want solutions, and there is no one company in this room that can solve everything. It's just not possible, it'll never happen. And so how these different companies interact and solve the problems for the OEM is the difference that's, I think we're starting to see that in OEM now, where legacy software sales, it was the vendors were looked at as bloodsuckers, now we're looked at as partners.
Yeah. Well, there's always been this challenges to organizations you're trying to make happy, at least from our perspective. The OEMs, right? You want to help the OEM with what their programs and goals are. And then like myKaarma is sold into dealer groups. And typically it's been dealer groups that have a real strong view of what that experience looks like across their organization. So Holman Automotive is a big customer of ours. And Holman, they're going to say, the Holman experience trumps any individual OEM experience. And so you've got these two different masters out there, and you've got to find a way to say, hey, at the end of the day, most of the OEs are going for the same goals. How do you make sure that it's meeting the dealer group experience, so there's consistency across that, as well as the different needs of the different OEMs? And I think the way we do that is, we open up the data, we open up the integrations there. And I think one of you was talking about kind of when Apple puts out a new iOS. I don't know if you remember, the very first version of the iPhone didn't have an app store. It's like, you get what you get. This is it. And they're like, well, this is interesting. And if you remember, if you look on that first screen, there's only like 9 icons. That was it. There was no page 2 or 3. Yeah. And I think it was within about a year or 18 months, they opened up the App Store. And so you can still have control over the quality that you have there, but when you change your mindset on that I think that unlocks a lot of the challenges that have been in the space so far of, let others be better at these areas. myKaarma is great at a lot of things. We're not a fleet and loaner management solution, right? And I think the other piece here is that I'm going on a slight tangent, but I'm going to come back here. There's a slight hubris right now with AI of, well, we could build that, right? All over the industry. Oh, I could go build a fleet management solution this weekend in Claude. Could I? Maybe. Maybe it looks good on the front end, but do we have the process and the people and understand the strategy behind it the way you do? Absolutely not. And so I think we have to balance those pieces. So we're going to unlock stuff with AI. But we've got to unlock it in a way where we're also still working with partners that have expertise, because it's not just about building the software, right? We're experts in our domains for a reason, and it's not just because we coded the software.
Yeah, I mean, it's also why all our customers love us, though, right? It's you can't be the best at all the things.
Yeah.
And so when the best partners with the best, chances are dealer groups, OEMs, individual dealerships who are already fans of these technologies and know that they're the best in their space, either already have it or are looking at that other service that you're partnered with. So it definitely makes sense, and there's so much benefit to both sides of the equation. I mean, I love that the walls are coming down, obviously. I do this for a living.
It's in the vendor's best interest, because if you display for a dealer group or an OEM that you solve the problem, the next OEM or dealer group is going to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, that's what we need over there. And you've already got the proof point, so it's easier to then get more market share.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, whose life is better? The retailers and the OEMs. Yep. That's who we serve. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of our time here, so I do want to make sure that we give you guys a chance to kind of sum up what you're saying here today. So, Nick, I'll start with you, but really we'll go across the board here. In one sentence, what should OEMs and dealership leaders prioritize if they truly want to move towards a connected ecosystem?
I think it's vendor selection and education. It's the consultative selling into that OEM to help them solve the problem, not just buy the flashy widget. There's going to be too many flashy widgets that are coming out. It's really understanding that vendor knows what they're doing. And that's not all about software. That's about their experience within the space that they're actually selling you software for.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, I guess just to double down on that, the right vendor selection is key, but none of these things that we're talking about are just buy it, set it, and forget it. Yep. Maybe that was in my old world at Gurus, but like we just turn a flip a switch and leads start pouring in. That's set it and forget it. But for everything we're talking about, like you have to make sure your people are using it correctly. You have to make sure it's integrated in all your systems, all your training, all your process. Like it needs to, and we talk about this every single day. You're not buying, or partnership is a perfect word. We're beyond that. We're part of your team. You have to start seeing us as part of your team, especially when it comes to 40 or 50 partnerships in your entire ecosystem. All of that is part of your team. Yeah. Who's going to be on your team? So to your point on vendors kind of being the necessary evil, so to speak, to some of the different decisions, if it is, but we are the experts. Who are you going to put on your team? It is really, and you have to look at it that way as even beyond that partnership aspect.
Absolutely.
Matt? Yeah. You said we serve dealers and OEMs. We also serve customers, vehicle owners, right? At the end of the day, that's the whole reason we're in this business. And so we always look at it from that perspective. And the key in my mind is integration is great. It's got to be considered. It's got to add value. And you've got to eliminate redundancy in doing it, right? So don't make someone at a dealership enter information into the service solution like myKaarma and then have to go over into Dealerware or to one of your solutions and type that in again or copy and paste a VIN. Make it go in there. Don't send redundant messages out through different systems. Don't make customers log into different pieces. Make that streamlined, make it focused for the customer. And when you do that with your integrations, then I think you win all the way up the chain.
Aaron.
I think you've got to think about, again, the whole purchasing process. Start with the end in mind. I know I've already said that, but talk to your people who are actually going to use this solution. Understand what those requirements are, what the expectations need to be for your specific franchise or dealer group. Understand those, stick to those. Don't worry about what the sales guy tells you. I've been in that seat. You do not need it to do a barrel roll when you type barrel roll. It doesn't help. It doesn't matter. Start with that end in mind and stay focused on that and truly work towards that. The other piece is work through the messy middle. Changing software solutions, consolidating, it's difficult at best. A lot of times it's very uncomfortable, especially for your end employees. Work through that process, get to a point where it's smooth and comfortable, and you get to the end, and you'll see that adoption grow, as opposed to, hey, we started this process, it was a pain, Shirley left, and she was kind of leading things, and now I'm kind of stuck because I don't know who can run this and handle it, and now I needed this solution. So then you go back to the same process where you buy this, buy that, buy that, and nothing actually talks to each other. So understand that it's not a set and forget. It's not easy. It is going to be a process. There's going to be uncomfortableness. Work through that with the end in mind, and understand that in the end, it will be better for your customers, better for your employees, better for the dealership as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your perspectives here today. I mean, I think we've really highlighted that the dealerships that win are not going to be the ones with the most technology. It's going to be the ones with the most connected technology. And that connected ecosystem won't build itself, which is why partners like this and integrations like this are extremely important. So anyone out here today, I mean, please take advantage of the fact that these brilliant guys are here and would love to talk more about this. So please find them throughout the day and have that conversation.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody.
This way.